The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 890.
Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.
You can now purchase The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Indigo, and other major book retailers. Get your copy today. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to The Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing lady on the show today. She is a strategic sourcing industry leader, and I'm super excited to have her on to share her story with us today on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Kimberly Chastang-Lee. Kim, how are you today? Maybe you can fill it a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Hi, Sheena. How are you? Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Very excited to be here. A little bit more about me, aside from the professional description that you just mentioned. I am a proud wife of 17 years. I'm a mom of a 16-year-old beautiful daughter, getting excited about college and all of that good stuff. So fun to be on that journey with her. I am a caretaker of a mom who has dementia, and that has been a journey in and of itself. And, I'm just a woman, navigating this thing called life and taking on all of the ups and downs that comes with it.
Thanks for sharing that. And I know as women, we do a lot, right? Especially if you're a mom, you're not only taking care of your kids, you're taking care of family members, running errands, working, running your business. And, sometimes we just need a breather, right? And this is why I'm so grateful for the US Pack Wise program because, we have that safe space to talk about these things and, realize that we can relate to one another and realize we're not alone in this journey. So I'm really grateful for that. And we're able to meet through that. And Kim, what's your cultural background?
I am born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I'm African American. My roots, my family hail from the South. My father's side of the family came from Mobile, Alabama, and my mother was born in California. Spent a lot of time in Texas and Louisiana, etc. But yeah, that's my cultural background.
Thanks so much for sharing that. And what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
I don't know that I have that's a hard one for me to answer about a self-confidence quote. But what I will say, and I think indirectly what I think it ties to kind of being to self-confidence is there's a mantra that I heard some time ago. And I want to say this mantra came from Oprah many years ago. I remember I heard her say this. And she said, doubt means don't. And what that means is that as women, we tend to always have that little inner voice that either gives us pause on moving forward with something or tells us, hey, you may want to rethink this. And so I've really adopted that years ago. If I have doubt about something, I don't do it. And it's as simple as that. And I may not have this extravagant logical reason, but it's about trusting my gut to navigate me through life and feeling comfortable with that. So I think it indirectly ties into confidence because I think sometimes we always want to second guess ourselves. And I'm like, I'm not going to second guess that little voice inside of me that's saying, and it could be something as simple as you're in the store and you're like, oh, I like these shoes, but should I get them? I don't know. And it's like, I have doubt. Don't do it, or to something even more important in your life, that is really significant. But that has been my mantra for years. Doubt means don't. And I stick to that. And it has not failed me yet.
I love that quote and mantra that you mentioned because our intuition is so powerful. And as women, we always don't listen to it, right? We're like, even though it's wrong, you're going to do it anyway because you're told by society or your family tells you or your culture tells you, but really it's giving you a sign like, no, you need to step away from this. This is going to be a hot mess. And I think we've all been there where we didn't trust our intuition and it was just not fun. So I really love that you mentioned that in your analogy and perspective on it. It's so great. And it's just a great reminder how as women, we're really great at our own intuition. It's learning to embrace it and just follow it without any judgment and not knowing what the outcome would be. So I love that mantra that you mentioned. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I mean, I think self-confidence is just really knowing who you are and being okay with that. And when I say that, it sounds simplistic, but I think a lot of times, especially with kind of social media and there's just so much content now. There's always these images and these people are portrayed in certain ways. And you look at that as some means of, I want to aspire to look like this or be like this. And it's like really knowing who you are and being comfortable with that, and being okay with. And that means embracing all of the wonderful goodness that you have, but also maybe whatever your flaws are and recognizing what that is. But I think a big part of self-confidence for me is not just knowing who I am, but being okay with that and embracing it. Because if I don't, who else will?
Thanks so much for sharing that great definition. And it's so true. I know sometimes we probably hear this so many times, be yourself, be your true self, but it's really important to show up as our authentic self. And yeah, social media can be a jungle out there, right? You see all these photos that are filtered to a T, thinking we have to attain this standard of perfection when really we just have to show up as our raw, authentic self. You know, that means our showing off our flaws, our weaknesses, because that all makes up who we truly are, right? Not everyone's gonna have a good day. Not everyone is always winning. There's days where we're gonna be like minus 110% confident or going through some form of depression. And that's something that people can relate to, right? This roller coaster that we call life. So I really love that definition that you mentioned. And Kim, what was your life like before you discovered self-confidence?
I think others who know me would probably frame up, well, you've always seemed to be very confident, but I too have my moments. I don't know that I always operate at a level of confidence. Sometimes I'm questioning. So before that, I think I questioned more. I think where I am in my life now, I feel more assured about who I am, what I have to offer, and it's okay. And I always tell my husband, my observation is that men have this kind of, a lot of men that I know, I should say, have a lot of confidence. And, even when it comes to, for example, just going for a job, men will not look and see, they don't really care about like, these are, all the qualifications that you have to have. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. And sometimes as women, including myself, when I was previously looking for a role or opportunity, I'm like, oh, I don't have these two things. I have these other 10 things, Angela, but I don't have these two things. And I just would go into this spinning cycle of like, yeah, I don't think I'm quite qualified because I have to check off all the boxes. And I just, it's like now I think I had more of a, no, don't even ask certain questions. Don't even put yourself in a certain situation because, oh, you may not be ready. Now I think what I see is more, you're going to have to tell me no. What's the worst you can say is no. And then I'm going to say, okay, why? So I think it's just a shift in my kind of mindset, my thinking, because it kind of, again, ties back to that self-confidence. And I have to exude in myself what I want others to also respect from me. And if I don't showcase that, how can I expect them to engage with me in that manner? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, women face a huge confidence gap from men. Like you mentioned, if a man was going to apply for a job, he may look at the qualifications and be like, okay, and just go for it, right? And as women, we over prepare, like we're 110% ready, but something still holds us back, right? Like you question yourself, am I the right person for this job? Am I qualified? Even though we already know you're qualified, that still our self-worth stops us from even going forward because we're also afraid of rejection. And I understand as women, there's more standards we have to live by and the double standards we go through. So it stops us sometimes from moving forward. But, when I talk to men, half the time they don't even know what they're doing. They're just going to go for it. And whatever the outcome is, they're fine with it and they'll keep moving forward. So, I do my best to do things that way as much as I can just to like get out of my own way. And yeah, it's given me results realizing, oh my gosh, like, I can always figure things out along the way. I can like pivot, I can course correct. If I get rejected, then I just move on. And you get a lot more results than like thinking what if, right? Or just trying to make everything perfect to a T. And what was that point in your life when you realized you were more than enough to go out there and be the person that you are today, especially being a leader? It's not always easy, right? But I mean, if we want, especially representation and empower women, it has to start with ourselves. So what was that aha moment?
I think for me, it was as you start to kind of navigate life and you look back and you say, well, why didn't I? I didn't even give myself an opportunity, right? You start kind of filing away in your memory all of the things you wanted to do but didn't do. And then you start thinking about, well, what prevented me from doing those things? Oh, it was me. So I got to get out of my own way. So I think it's just kind of self-reflection, which I think is important. And I think that's a part of just, you talk about self-confidence, and I mentioned just kind of knowing yourself. It's doing that self-reflection. What are the things that you've always dreamed or aspired to do? Well, what stopped you from doing it? And a lot of times for me, it pointed back at myself. So if I tend to be very analytical and, I think of very kind of, step one, you do this, step two. So if I'm the blocker, okay, well, how do you remove that blocker, Kim? Open yourself up to the possibilities of what could be and take a chance. And what's I'm not, there's nothing that I'm thinking about or considering that's going to kind of impact negatively my life, like, oh my goodness, I'm going to harm myself. I'm going to go to the hospital if I do that. So I'm like, open yourself up. And it's okay. I think too, the aha moment for me is as I kind of do some self-reflection, I always think back on where I have learned the most in life is when others may call it a failure. That's where I've learned so much. And so it's embracing the, if you could see me, it's air quotes a failure, because I don't know that it's failure, because as long as you're learning something from it, it's really been a growth opportunity is what I see it as. So I think it's just kind of embracing all of those learnings and, oh, that didn't quite work out. What could I have done differently? How should I think about something differently? But I think for me, it's just, like I said, embracing all of it and, eliminating for me those blockers has just really opened myself up to experiencing and doing things that I go, oh, I can do this. I do know I can do this. And I just had to get out of my own way.
Thanks for sharing that. And it's so important. I know sometimes our biggest enemies are self. And, especially for women, low self-confidence is really due to inaction, right? We're too afraid to make that first step. We're too afraid to, forge our own path because of rejection or how we perceive ourselves or failure, right? Like failure is seen as the end of the world when really it's just feedback, right? It's really just a stepping stone to building your courage and confidence and learning like, okay, this didn't work. Let's try this way. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try it this way. And the more failures you go through, the easier it is for you to pick yourself back up. And so, like you mentioned, like if you just keep going, then it's not really failure. It's just like it didn't work out. No, and you can move on to the next thing. And because of your realization, what's your life been like now?
I think, like I said, I think it's just really opening me up to exploring things and doing things that I wouldn't have necessarily done. And it's interesting, you have those moments. I mentioned at the beginning, part of my role with my mom and kind of what she's going through medically. And there was just so much. And I just felt so overwhelmed. But I think what I can look back and go, all right, I feel confident that I have done everything that I can do to get her in a really good place. And it's just amazing how things open up and how all the goodness that is out there for me, I can start to realize. Right. And I think when I just kind of, oh, no, I can't do this, or this is, I don't qualify enough for this, whatever, all those kind of negative things, that's you blocking you from your own opportunities. And so I think for me, it's just, I feel like I've opened myself up to experience and navigate things that I thought I couldn't do and that I absolutely can do and have done.
Thanks for sharing that. And, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you'd give to her?
I think you have to define what does confidence mean to you. Like, and truly do self-reflection. And while I say that is that because confidence is just that, right? It's about you and how you see yourself. And I think that if what my definition and what's important to me may not be applicable to everyone, but I think it really is about being assured about who you are, being your authentic self, unapologetically so, and being able to show up like that. Because when you exude that energy that you're putting out there, you're confident, you're sure about yourself, that's going to be what other people absorb that energy when they meet you and they come into contact with you. And it's just going to be kind of like this thing that's reciprocated. Wow, she's confident. I love her confidence. How do I pull? That's the kind of energy that you want out there. But you have to really understand who you are. So doing some self-reflection, be your authentic self, and then just own it. Own it all, the good and the bad.
Thanks for sharing those great tips. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
I'm definitely always on LinkedIn. Feel free to kind of reach out to me on LinkedIn, Kimberly Chastang-Lee. That's always a good place. I do not do a whole lot of other social media, but that would be a good place to start for me.
Thanks for sharing that. To our listeners, if you want to connect with Kimberly, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Kimberly's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just really want to thank Kimberly today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Kimberly.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for having a platform like this. This is wonderful.
Not a problem. It was such an honor having you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.